The Linguafolio has really changed the way I think as a teacher, in that it makes me a lot more creative. It makes me think outside the box in the fact that I need to think of creative, unique activities and experiences to give these kids so that they can meet these requirements in their Linguafolio. It's not, okay, study these vocabulary words, we're going to have a quiz on this, and here you go. It's more of an experience. And if you think about it, as native speakers of English or of any language, we learn through experiential language learning. You learn that don't touch the stove because it's hot, because you see your mom acted out and you're like, it's hot, you know? And so we want that experiential type learning, and we need, as teachers, to provide those activities for them. Not only that, it's made me a much more reflective teacher. I see them reflecting on their work, and then I think, okay, well, what am I doing to guide them, and what can I do better so that they meet these requirements? And so it helps me take a look at myself and figure out what I can do to help them and help accommodate their needs. The benefits of reflective teaching are numerous. We as teachers are not only teachers, but we're also learners, and so we need to understand the process that our students undergo, and we also need to reflect upon our work to see what we've done well and what we need to improve upon. And so it's really great with the Linguafolio that you have this tool that's a guide for student learning, and it's also a guide for teachers teaching the curriculum. And so I can use the Linguafolio to reflect upon what I've done and to see what's working. And it makes me become more flexible, it makes me become more positive, it makes me become more understanding of the students and of myself and of the situations that arise in language learning. And I understand that I, as a teacher, am evolving just as the students are evolving, and that I constantly have to be changing with the times to accommodate the students' needs. And the Linguafolio is a great guide, as I said before, to let me change and to allow them to change and improve as well.
It's changed the way I approach it now, because I think so often we know where we want to go as teachers. We know what it is that we want to do, and often we think our students are going to get it and they're going to know what we're teaching them, and sometimes we realize, especially with the checklist, and then they can say, I can do it, or I need help. Then you realize, wait a minute, they didn't always get it, or I can see the things that they say, I need help with. Now I know, oh, maybe I need to redo this, maybe I need to reteach this, or do it in another way, because the first time the majority of them only could do it with help, but they couldn't do it on their own, and I thought perhaps that they could. Motivation of the students, the benefits of reflective teaching, and I can now see from what they like, what they're interested in, and what they say they learn best. When I tailor it to them, the motivation is that much higher. So when I reflect on what they've given back to me, then the next time I have a much more engaging lesson, because now I've done the things that I realize that they're good at, or the things that they feel more comfortable with. So they're learning more, they're more engaged, and of course that always makes the teacher happy.
It's been fun. I have a couple of teachers who said, okay, I see what this Linguafolio thing is, and I have to show documentation to my principal that I'm doing something about data. So I'm going to have them do the checklist, but I'm going to have to initial everywhere that the student says they can do it, because I want them to prove it to me before I'll let them put it in the Linguafolio. And I said, okay, please keep in mind that this belongs to the student and that this is not officially graded. Why don't we think about how you're going to approach this? And as she's been working with the assessments and the self-assessment checklist with the students, she's backed off from trying to sign off on everything so much. She's realizing, oh, well, I have 30 students in the class, and Johnny can do this. Susie's not quite there yet. I don't want to make Susie feel bad because I signed or put a gold star in Johnny's checklist. This is Susie's private moment. This is Johnny's private moment. They have their own goals. They're individual students. And so she's changing how she's giving feedback to the students. And that is so important. As they learn to spend more time focusing on things other than grammar, this is the same teacher that when I asked her at a professional development, what should a Spanish 1 student be able to do? She said, oh, they should be able to conjugate such and such verbs. So I asked her, well, if I drop off your students in a street in Mexico, is that something that's going to help them get what they need at the pharmacy? Well, no. So what do they need to be able to do with the language? And so she's changing a little bit. The grammar is still there, but more things are creeping in to help the students speak to each other or be able to understand a conversation or a commercial and focus not quite as much on those grammar pieces.
I think for all of us, and I can tell you certainly for me, we are much more proficiency based in our teaching. We have changed our testing procedures. We do not do Scantrons. Well, part of it is Scantron, but most of it is writing and speaking and producing, so that proficiency is the bottom line for us now, rather than producing facts and just conjugating verbs. So that changes what you do in the classroom. Once your goal is different, then what you do to reach that goal is different in the classroom. So there is a lot more speaking. I teach level 2 this year, and the focus for level 2 is listening and speaking. So we do a lot of listening in the classroom. I speak almost all in Spanish. We do a lot of speaking in the classroom, and that has changed what I have planned. We also decided not to only use the book as a resource, and so we are pulling resources from a variety of books, and we are doing our own worksheets and our own conversation starters and our own pictures that we want them to be able to talk about, and that has made a major difference, and it's caused more work. It takes more work doing it that way when you don't just have a book to rely on, but the results have really been worthwhile.
I like to think that I've always tried to motivate my students to be proficient speakers, readers, writers, and listeners in my classroom, but I think Linguafolio helps keep me in check sometimes too, because as a teacher, I love grammar. I love teaching grammar. I love the details of grammar. I love the rules of it. But at the end of the day, grammar is a critical component to being proficient, but it's not the sole piece that contributes to it. So if we only focus on grammar in the classroom, then we're really not doing our students justice and helping them to become more proficient and grow and grow and grow. So by keeping Linguafolio, and students know what to expect with Linguafolio, and they know that they're going to be held accountable to it, it helps me be held more accountable to it as well, because I know, all right, is what I'm teaching today absolutely vital to their being able to grow to an intermediate mid, an intermediate high, an advanced low, or is it just a critical, or is it just a component that could help them to grow, but it's not necessarily vital to the cause. So it helps keep me in check a little bit, and it helps me when I'm looking long term, where is it that I want to take a lesson, how else can I differentiate this lesson for kids who have already achieved an intermediate mid or an intermediate high level. What are some opportunities that I can offer to them to help grow and grow and grow, and how should I set those up so that it is in accordance with what the expectations are for an advanced low or an advanced mid. On any given day, I like to think that I'm at my best and that everything that I do is wonderful and fantastic. But if I'm honest with myself, there are always things that I'm going to do well, and there are always going to be areas that I can still get better at integrating in, or going back over, or cycling back and spiraling back to things that we've done. So with Linguafolio, when I'm able to walk around as the students are filling out their ICANN checklists, and if I'm noticing that students are really having trouble with the listening component, I can go back and say, okay, what is it that we're doing in terms of supporting listening in the classroom, and how is it that I can make this more accessible to them? What are other opportunities that I can offer to them so that they can feel more empowered when they try to go through and work through each of the proficiency levels? So by reflecting as a teacher, you're inherently getting better too, so that what you're putting out to the students is better, and what they can give you back is better too.